What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Talking Sports with Manny, and this is your host, Manny. Let's get it. Ever wanted to make a podcast but never really knew how? Well, Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. There's a creation tool that allows you to record right from your phone or computer, and as well as editing as well. Anchor will distribute your podcast to places such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can also monetize from your podcast. You can download the Anchor app for free at the App Store, or you can go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hey, Nick, how's it going?
Very good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. So, guys, man, I got my guy Nick from P2W Fantasy. This guy right here knows a lot about fantasy, and he enlightened us on some sleepers. So let's get started, man. What's the first sleeper you got on your list, my brother?
Yeah, so, sleepers, you can go to almost every team in the league and pick out some guys. I actually made an article about some sleepers, so it's kind of hard to narrow down some guys, but the first one that comes to mind in terms of a sleeper, I've been kind of preaching this, is a wide receiver out of the Falcons, Russell Gage. Russell Gage, it's not a guy you're going to draft super early in any sort of redraft or even dynasty, but the guy just showed some flashes this last season, even as the wide receiver 3 for the Falcons. We know Austin Hooper, he's gone, and he leaves behind 97 targets. And I think a lot of people assume Hayden Hurst, the new tight end coming in, is going to take those targets. And I don't know if that's going to be the case. I mean, it might be the case where he takes a lot of them, but I think Russell Gage can just step up based off of some of the weeks he had this past season. I mean, week 8, 7 catches, week 12, 8 catches, week 13, 5 with touchdown, both 15 and 16. He had 5 catches, and then week 17, he had 7 catches on 13 targets. So they really started to implement him into that system, and I know it was because of some injuries, but I think he's got a real shot at stepping up and taking a lot of that volume on the Falcons offense.
And Nick, you know what's so funny? I play in a deep league. This league is crazy. It's like 2 quarterbacks, 3 wide receivers, and you can flex 2 more wide receivers. So I actually remember Russell Gage, but it was like more so like an injury filler, because I had Julio, and I think wasn't Julio down?
He was. I know Gage kind of stepped up because of some injuries, and I think Julio might have been one of the guys.
Yeah. Because I know when Julio got down, I was pissed because I needed Julio. It was playoffs, I believe, or trying to get to the playoffs. So I picked up this guy, and I didn't know what to expect. I think he gave me some numbers. I forgot which weeks, but he just went over them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Russell Gage. Thank you, man. That's definitely a name I'll have on my list. Most definitely. Do you have any quarterback sleepers?
Quarterbacks. I think 2 guys that come to mind for quarterbacks, and I know a lot of people will debate me on this for one of them, but 2 guys that come to mind right now are Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold. I know a lot of guys rip on Sam Darnold, and they point to Adam Gase being the head coach. But if you really look at some situational factors for Darnold, he's got an improved offensive line now. They had a very bad one this past season. They signed Perryman, who kind of balled out at the end of the season for the Bucks because also of some injuries, but he actually stepped his game up big time. They drafted Denzel Mims, Chris Herndon. Hopefully will be back. So I think a lot of people, make fun of the things that seeing ghosts and things like that for Sam Darnold, but I think with improved factors around him, he can the model. Yeah, I don't know how he got that. He's out. I don't know. I'm not gonna get too far into that, but I think he could step up, and along with Daniel Jones, I think he had some major flashes this past season. The issue with him was the fumbles. He led like the league in fumbles, which might be his fault.
Yeah.
But it might also be his protection, if guys are hitting. But he had some major games this past season, Daniel Jones, and hopefully with a healthy Saquon, Shepard avoiding any concussions and other injuries. Slayton stepped up. Evan Ingram's been banged up a lot, so I think if he's got a healthy core, I think he could. Daniel Jones will be the guy that could probably sneak into that top 10 quarterback rankings potentially. But I also think Sam Darnold's the guy that will definitely pick up his game too.
Okay. Speaking of Sam Darnold, I know in my last pod about my top 25 quarterbacks, I had Sam Darnold as my number 24 quarterback.
Yeah.
So that's like a QB2 pretty much. And in those leagues where you need two quarterbacks, he's definitely going to be vital. I mentioned some of the things that you mentioned about, him having a improved offensive line. And another factor that I have is they're going to be losing a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when you're losing, you like that in fantasy, because you're playing, catch up. So that bodes well. You're talking about 300-plus yard games and 2 to 3 touchdown games. So
all great factors right there.
Definitely. Absolutely. And then for Daniel Jones, I didn't have him in my top 25 just for the simple fact. Well,
okay. All right.
Okay. And, I don't like the other guys in the NFC, but for Daniel Jones, it was like more so like the unknown. Him and Haskins are not in my top 25. People fought me about that, but he's definitely a guy that put up numbers last year. Whether you like him, love him, hate him, he put up some numbers, like that 5 touchdown game. I hated it. I hated it because I was playing the guy that had Daniel Jones.
Of course, it's always that week when a guy goes off, it's against you for some reason.
And it might have been against stupid Tampa Bay, man. Tampa Bay they were pissing me off because with all the talent they have on defense, they were still trash. So it's like you want to put up numbers, you play quarterbacks playing against Tampa Bay.
Of course.
You have any running back sleepers?
Yeah, I had a few guys. Maybe I can just be brief because I wrote down 3 guys just thinking about this.
Sure.
The 3 guys I wrote down were Jordan Howard, Sony Michel, and Boston Scott. Very different reasons why for each of the 3, but maybe I can just spit out some reasons and you let me know what you think.
Yeah, talk to me.
So Jordan Howard had a top 20 fantasy, finish his first 3 seasons, 2016 RB10, 2017 RB14, 2018 RB20, a little bit lower. This past season, only played 10 games, but even in those 10 games, he had some bigger ones, like against Green Bay where he had like over 30 points. I think with the Dolphins kind of being in a rebuild a little bit and shaping that offense differently, I think he's got a chance to kind of step into a role that's kind of wide open. I know Matt Breida's there and he'll steal some touches, but Jordan Howard's a big red zone guy, and in fantasy, you want your guy, you want your guy to fall in the end zone. I mean, you want your guy to score the touchdown. So I think with him only being 25 years old and being in the top 20 for active players that have the top 20 list of active players of guys who lead in yardage, I think Jordan Howard's kind of being slept on a little bit, and he's not a guy that goes high in drafts at all.
Absolutely. And for me, Jordan Howard, when I made my top 25, I fought between Marlon Mack, Sony Michel, Jordan Howard. Those are some of the guys that I had as honorable mentions, just, based off of opportunity. And I like Jordan Howard a lot because Miami has an improved offensive line. So that's one. Number 2, like you mentioned, he's great in the red zone. He'll get you those 2 or 3 touchdown games that is game breakers that would most likely win you those weeks. So that I did love about Jordan Howard. I'm big on Jordan Howard this year. My only fear is Miami able to run the ball, or are they losing and Fitzmagic is doing his thing? Yeah. I think Fitzmagic starts out the year as a starter. So, That's that. But I still think, like you said, in the red zone, he's definitely going to get touches. They didn't have a running back of Jordan Howard's caliber last year. I know Drake was there, but Drake just didn't fit that system. For whatever the reason was, Drake wasn't here, So, yeah, I'm with you on Jordan Howard.
Yeah.
Talk to me about Sony Michel. I like him a lot.
Sony Michel, I was a big fan of. I had him his rookie season. 2018, I think he was RB 25 in only 13 games. So missing out on a bunch of games and still being RB 25 was big for him. He had that foot surgery, and the minute that was came out, everybody started talking about Damian Harris might be the guy now and this and that. And you look at the numbers, he did have a bad year in comparison to his rookie. In yards, he went down in yards, even though he played more games. He lost a touchdown from 2018 to 2019, even though he played more games. This and that. But what I don't think people talk about enough is the fact that they drafted two rookie tight ends, Devin Asiasi and Dalton Keene, who, to be honest with you, I looked at tight ends in this draft early on, and I didn't know much about either one of those guys, and I was surprised. But yeah,
me neither.
If you look at their profile, one thing stands out to me. Devin Asiasi, it says capable blocker. Dalton Keene, it says blocking and pass catching. Both guys can catch the ball, but both guys are great blockers too. And when you have a guy like Stidham, right, a new quarterback in the system, we're assuming it's Stidham.
Exactly.
He's probably going to be a little bit uncomfortable. They have a good defense. What happens if Bill Belichick in a new system says, "Hey, we are going to win these games by playing great defense, and we're going to pound rock"? So what happens if Sony Michel is healthy? You have that foot surgery to get rid of some discomfort, and they just pound the rock. I mean, Sony Michel was one of the top. He was 9th in attempts inside the 20, and then 6th in attempts inside the 10 this past year. So he didn't do great in the red zone, but the opportunity is there, and that's one of the key phrases you said earlier is you want to look at guys with opportunity, and if this could be the chance for Sony to have a big bounce back season with great opportunity.
And what people don't realize about Sony is he's a very solid running back.
Yep.
His first 2 years, he had 900 plus yards both times, and then had at least 6 touchdowns. So he's a guy that's capable. And then, like you said, you gave him more attempts, more opportunity. He can get you 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns easily. Yep. And then people are surprised, like, oh, wow, I didn't draft Sony. I slept on him. In my dynasty league, well, it's not a dynasty, but it's like a 6-keeper league, right? I was trying to trade with this guy, and he had Sony Michel. So Sony Michel is not one of the 6 keepers. So I try to work the system. I try to work it in the way where I get Sony Michel and a first or second round pick. And then he was like, well, nah, I'm not going to trade. And then Sony got hurt. So I was like, man, I'm sorry that Sony got hurt. He was like, well, Sony was never in my plans. Well, you best believe he's my plan.
Yeah. I'm right there with you.
I got a first and I got 2 second rounders. And trust me, if he's there at the end of my second round with my, second pick, I'm right there with you. I'm snatching him straight up. Yep. Why not? So my running backs in that league is I have Todd Gurley, Christian McCaffrey. I have Melvin Gordon. I got Marlon Mack, but I'm not keeping him just because of the 6-keeper rule. So I'm gonna try to get Mack back because I like Mack a lot this year, regardless of Jonathan Taylor being there. I get it, but you cannot discount what Mack did last year. Under a good line.
I think people assume with a lot of these rookies coming in for running backs, just on a side note, kind of with that, I think a lot of guys assume that these guys just disappear. Like Marlon Mack, I mean, he's not a sexy quarterback. He's not a sexy running back. He's not phenomenal at anything, but he's like good at a lot of things still. And I think people think he's going to disappear. I mean, I don't want to get too deep into it, but look at the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, Damian Williams he probably could have been the MVP of the Super Bowl. I mean, he's not just going to disappear. I think a lot of guys are kind of sleeping on them for value in terms of 2020 they'll still get touches, but also like a lot of these guys that have rookie running backs come into their system are not that old.
Mm-hmm. Right. Let me ask you this. If somebody said, hey, I'm going to give you a running back that gets 900 yards every year and 8 touchdowns, wouldn't you take that?
I think I'd get it. I don't think I'd blink twice on that one.
And that's what Marlon Mack has done. That is what he's done. 2 years in a row, 900 yards, 9 touchdowns, 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns. And he's only going to get better. And he's a capable receiver, but I know they don't throw the ball to him. But I believe that Phillip Rivers will. So folks keep sleeping on Marlon Mack, and that's definitely one of my sleepers. I'll grab him as often and as quick as I can,
especially in dynasty formats because he's not that old.
Exactly. Exactly. So who's your third?
So this one's more of a deeper league kind of guy. I just had a startup dynasty draft this past week, and I picked him up here, but. I talked a little bit about Boston Scott here. Philadelphia, they talk about how they like to run a running back by committee system typically, with Doug Peterson usually going that route. But I think Miles Sanders probably takes that role and has like a majority of those snaps and the volume there. But if you look at the last handful of weeks 14 through 17 that Boston Scott was involved. You had Jordan Howard injured, and he kind of took up that other portion of the run game with Miles Sanders. He was RB11 from weeks 14 through 17. So him being RB11 behind a guy like Miles Sanders, I think screams that, hey, even if Miles gets more of the touches and he gets – I'm looking at some of his game lines here. He had a 6 reception game. He had a 7 reception game. He had a few games with some touchdowns. I mean, week 17, he had 3 touchdowns. I'm rolling the dice in a deep league, and I'm going to go with Boston Scott on the chance that he still gets the touches. Maybe not as many as Miles Sanders, but they didn't sign anybody. They had talks of Freeman or Carlos Hyde, but I think they're sticking with Miles Sanders as RB1 on that team, and Boston Scott's going to supplement the run game there.
Man, you're speaking facts because although the Eagles are in the NFC East, and I should know a lot about the Eagles, I don't think about Boston Scott. I'm looking at his numbers right now. 245 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns, 24 receptions, 200 yards. Those are pretty good numbers for a limited role. So I see how he was able to be a RB11.
Yeah. Just in a few weeks, too.
Well, I'm putting him on my list. I'm putting him on my list. Appreciate that.
Fair enough.
Who do you got at wide receiver?
Another wide receiver I have, and it kind of pains me to talk about any people on this team because I live in a suburb of Chicago. So to talk about any Green Bay Packers players is not a thing I like to do. But Allen Lazard's the guy I think needs to be looked at a little bit more. Week 6 on, he averaged about 5 targets a game. He had some big ones like in week 4. He only had 4 catches, but he had a touchdown, which gave him some good fantasy points. Found some more good weeks. Week 17, 4 catches and a touchdown. He had a 103-yard receiving game back in week 13 as well. Good quote I found actually about him is from Aaron Rodgers. ESPN had an article October of this past season that said Aaron Rodgers was quoted saying, "I actually sit next to him in the team meetings, and we're struck up a pretty good friendship here." Rodgers said. So I've actually read a few things about Aaron Rodgers building a relationship with this guy, and I think Aaron Rodgers is the type of quarterback that needs to have a trust in his receiver, and he needs to have a relationship with a guy. We saw in the past, like guys like MVS and some other Green Bay Packers guys get some hype, but at the end of the day, he was only looking at Devontae Adams and then throwing it randomly to some other guys. If Allen Lazard is the wide receiver 2 on that team, especially after they shocked the world and didn't take a wide receiver in the deepest wide receiver draft in the longest time here. I know
Crazy.
They didn't take a wide receiver, which is insane to me. But if they didn't,
that's the dumbest thing
if they
ever.
didn't though, and Rodgers has this relationship with Allen Lazard, I want him in like any league I can get him for cheap, because I know that people are not going to sell him very high right now because he's a thought, but Alan Lazard is a guy I think is going to either be okay or be very good for fantasy owners.
Mm-hmm. Didn't they sign that other receiver from the Colts? His
Funches.
Funches. Yeah,
Yeah.
Funches. Yeah, Funches.
To me, I thought about him. I actually picked him up in a deep league, and then I dropped him. I don't know. I just think he's had a lot of opportunities through his career. He just hasn't really stepped his game up to be like, oh man, they just signed this guy, So.
Mm-hmm. No, what you're saying makes sense and bodes well for what I had for Aaron Rodgers. I had Aaron Rodgers in my top 10. Let me pull up my QB notes. I had Aaron Rodgers as a QB 8.
Oh, all right.
So for that to happen, that means he's tossing at least 30 to maybe 34 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So somebody got to catch him.
Guy.
Exactly. Your guy Lazard is 6'5", Funches is 6'4". So it seems like they went with the theme of just having big receivers. And then, who's that guy? Geronimo Allison. I hated that guy.
Yeah.
Man, I invested so much in Allison and the other guy, Scotland, and they both pissed me off because, when you play with Aaron Rodgers and if you're a wide receiver too, you get numbers.
Yep.
He's been doing this since he came in the league. It doesn't matter who the number 2 is; they always get numbers. And last year, I think I drafted Scotland like in the middle of the draft at a good spot to where I could have just got him for free because he didn't produce. He had that one game and he fooled everybody.
Yeah.
He fooled us all. He
Yep.
fooled me. And I thought he was going to do something, and then he didn't do anything else.
Yeah,
that
big
pissed me
letdown.
off. So so it's kind of Packers receivers are scary, but I'll definitely give Lazard a chance, especially at the end of the draft. I don't think anybody's looking, but after preseason, when people see a little bit and start making their little speculations, that might change.
For sure.
Do you have any tight end sleepers?
Man, I can just like start listing off guys because I feel like so many different guys for tight ends are kind of new to being the starter on their team this year. I mean,
Exactly.
We're talking about Green Bay. You got Jay Sternberger could be the new tight end. The Titans, I think Jonnu Smith's going to be the for sure starter there.
I got him number 16.
Okay, I can just go down the line with Dawson Knox on the Buffalo Bills. He might step up. I don't know.
I got him number 25.
So the two guys I want to talk about though are Irv Smith and I'm going to talk about another Jets player with Chris Herndon again.
Herndon, yes.
Irv Smith Jr. I'm a big fan of. He was a second round pick out of Alabama. I mean, that's a good round to take a top tight end in. So I think that right there said enough. But if you look at this past year, him and Kyle Rudolph almost tied in targets. They had 47 and 48 with Kyle Rudolph having one more. And then the receptions was 36 to 39 with Kyle Rudolph again at him by just a few. But I mean, if we think about like some other rookie year, early tight end seasons. A lot of tight ends in their first season or two don't really, step up. But I think Irv Smith,
Facts.
competed with Kyle Rudolph, a veteran, and he was almost even with him. So I think with Stephon Diggs leaving, and they have 94 targets up in the air. I mean, Justin Jefferson, big fan of him. I think he's going to step up and take a lot of those targets, but who knows if the Vikings don't have like a Ertz and Goddard system with two tight ends, or does Irv Smith just take over? I mean, I think he's like so talented and he's very good. He's going to be 22 going into the season. I think he's very young, so I'm a big fan of Irv Smith stepping up and breaking out big time.
Nice. Yeah, I love Irv Smith as well. I had Irv Smith number 23 on my list, and then Herndon 22. Then for my quarterbacks, I had Kirk Cousins at number 17, which I'm believing that they pass the ball more this year. I know it sounds
It
crazy.
doesn't. It doesn't sound crazy because I actually talked about this. I think it was in an article. I dropped an article today that was talking about some of the rookies and the whole Debo getting hurt and Ayuk sort of thing. But if you think about it, if Dalvin Cook holds out and they're running with Madison and whoever, maybe they do just start throwing the ball more. I mean they don't have Dalvin Cook. Not to say that Alexander Madison is not a very good player, but maybe with Stefanski, who was the offensive coordinator, with him leaving and he's going to the Browns, maybe their new offense is, hey, we got to start throwing this ball more, especially since they lost some defensive pieces. So could happen.
Exactly. Yeah, we're definitely thinking the same. I had the same train of thought as well. I just believe that, they're going to throw the ball. And like you said, the defense might be bad. I mean, they have a lot of rookie corners, lots of pieces. The whole team is different, and Kirk Cousins loves to throw the ball. You don't pay a guy that kind of money to throw the ball 9 times.
I hope not.
So, yeah, they're definitely going to throw the ball. I love Irv Smith. I think he's going to be that slot type tight end. They were showing some routes on ESPN. Like some of those routes that Diggs runs, and then they was giving those to Irv Smith. So I definitely like him a lot. Love him a lot. So you was talking about Chris Herndon?
Yeah, I mean, again, we touched on a Jets player before, but I'll jump in again with the improved offense. But Chris Herndon kind of let us down this past season. He had this suspension, and I think he had a back and then some hamstring injuries right after suspension. 2018, he was on the field for 63% of snaps. Week 6 through the end of the season, he was actually tight end 9. I believe his rookie season. So that to me just is like outstanding for a young tight end again. And I think we saw Ryan Griffin, who filled in for Chris Herndon, have some big games this past season. He had 2 games over 20 points, and that's huge for a tight end. So I think Chris Herndon is very talented. I just think that he needs to, which is not controlled by anything fantasy related, but he needs to stay healthy and he needs to not be in trouble for anything. And if he's not, I think Chris Herndon can definitely be a guy that is very startable on fantasy rosters. And that's something I was a believer in as soon as he stepped up in 2018, going into 2019 until he got suspended. I was like rolling on his train, but we'll see. We'll see this coming year. I mean, we've all seen some YouTube clips of him, catching the ball and getting hit by 3 guys and still coming up with a catch, or running routes down the field like deeper and making big plays. So, I like Chris Herndon.
Right. Yeah, I like him a lot as well. I mean, any tight end that gets you 500 yards receiving, 4 touchdowns, those are very solid numbers, especially for tight ends. And then it's which weeks do they blow up? There's nothing wrong with having 2 tight ends on your roster and playing the matchups. But yeah, he's definitely on my radar. He's so athletic, and he's one of those prototypical tight ends, 6'4", 253 pounds, nice size, So I'm big on him.
Where do you have? I'm curious. Where do you have Mike Gesicki on your rankings?
Okay, so Mike Gesicki. Let me pull back up my tight end.
I know you're spitting out those rankings. I was curious.
Yeah, I have him at tight end 17.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious because I think I'm not going to go into his stats or anything like that. I mean, he stepped up huge this past season, but I've just been on just on fantasy Twitter, seeing a lot of different things. Some guys think that he can be the next Waller, as in like the guy that steps up and has a massive season, and some guys think that he's gonna bust. So I was just kind of curious for.
And here's how I kind of run with tight ends. Tight ends to me is the toughest position in football, and this is why. Especially to be able to produce on offense, you got to be able to learn the position and really learn your quarterback and learn your team. This is why. Now, you look at these tight ends, they come in year 1, year 2, and they don't produce.
Yeah.
Right? But then you see them year 3 and 4 take that big jump. Example, Tyler Higbee. In his 3rd or 4th year was when he made that big jump. And that was like literally the last half of the season. You know, guys like Jonnu Smith, he's next. You know, Hayden Hurst, it's time.
Yeah.
You know, Gesicki going into, I think, year 2 or 3. Maybe it's year 3. I'm not sure. But it's time. You saw Ebron, late bloomer. So a lot of these tight ends, they bloom late. Some do come in and ball out like Dallas Goedert.
Yeah.
You know, some of these other guys. But by year 2, 3, sometimes year 4, those are the times or the years that these guys go off. So that's what I kind of look at as well when I'm doing my projections and my rankings. And, you know, not everybody comes in and balls out like Noah Fant or, you know, Kowski. Jared Cook took him a little while. I remember Jared Cook here in Tennessee. He was not good.
Yeah.
Titans fans out here hated this guy. And then I think he went to the Rams and started balling. Then he goes to Oakland, has a Pro Bowl type season. Then he goes to the Saints, Pro Bowl type season. Now he's a premier tight end. So a lot of times it takes these guys a while, you know, to get the Antonio Gates and the Wallers. It's hard. It's like,
I think
you know, it's so hard to just find those guys and just come in and just have a magical season. They continue.
Yeah, it's just a hard position, I think, to outside of like the top 3 guys. I think it's very hard to like rank them. I mean, we all know that you know, Travis Kelce and George Kittle are going to be phenomenal. I think a lot of people are very, very high on Mark Andrews, but then like after that to rank the rest and be like very accurate, I think it's tough just because of the things you're saying. I mean, it's very situational. They're almost like a mix between, you know, offensive linemen and wide receivers at the same time, and guys break out at different ages. So I love stacking up my tight ends on deep rosters just because you're rolling the dice on one of these guys is going to break out. One of these guys is going to be very good, you know. So.
Yeah. In my dynasty league, I took over. I made some trades because the team that I took over was like last place. So I made some deals, but I made a deal for Gronkowski, right? Traded my 1st round pick overall. The minute I traded him, a few weeks later, he retired. I was pissed.
Of course. Yeah.
So then the guy reworked the deal. The guy reworked the deal and gave me Evan Ingram, Emmanuel Sanders, and another guy. So I was grateful that at least I got something back.
Yeah.
Then during the season, I picked up Mark Andrews, then picked up Tyler Higbee.
Okay, yeah.
Let's just say that I'm sitting great right now.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I'm sitting great right now. Higbee.
Yeah, big time. I actually sold Higbee, and it's not a good trade. I'm not going to say I did a good thing, but I sold Higbee for a 1st round 2020 pick this past year just because of his breakout. I don't think he's personally worth that, but some people were very high in him, and you know, I roll with that. So,
no, hey, that's a great trade for you. And as much as I like Higbee, not in my wildest dreams do I even think that he's worth a first-round pick.
Absolutely not. People are yelling at me saying I did something wrong, but that guy offered me the trade.
Hey, you got to take that.
Sure.
You got to take that. You know, yeah, Higbee's a guy that I'm big on this year. You know, kind of like a similar situation to Irv Smith with Brandon Cooks leaving. There's definitely going to be targets out there. And if you look at the way that the Rams ran their offense towards the end of the year, it just bodes well for Tyler Higbee owners. You know, we'll see if it was a bust or if that's the new normal.
Yeah, you know they'll throw the ball, you know, a lot too. So it's definitely a possibility.
Absolutely. So what other positions do we have left? Or what other sleepers do you have?
You know.
Hey Nick, so is there any other sleepers you have on your list?
Yeah, I was asking you again here. You're a Redskins fan, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So one of my favorite prospects out of this rookie draft was Antonio Gandy Golden. curious to see. Maybe I'll talk a little bit here, but after I give you some of my thoughts on him, I'm curious to see where you rank him on that wide receiver list for the Redskins. But the rookie out of Liberty, 6'4", 223 pounds. He's got good speed, good with the ball in his hands. He was a 4th round pick. He was 4th in yards in all of the NCAA, which is huge. I know, his competition was a little bit different. He was top 20 in catches for all of the NCAA. I like this guy a lot. I think he's going in like the 3rd round of rookie drafts, I'd say, or maybe the end of the 3rd round. Steve Sims Jr. balled out towards the end of the season this past year. And he might be that wide receiver too, behind McLaurin. But what are the odds that Antonio Gandy Golden, maybe not, day one, but maybe over,
as the season goes on,
or in dynasty formats is the wide receiver two there? What are your thoughts?
So here are my thoughts on the whole wide receiver group for the Redskins. Terry McLaurin obviously is number one.
Yeah.
Kelvin Harmon, people are sleeping on just because he's not fast. He doesn't really do anything like amazing, but what he does do is he has great hands. He's been working with Haskins during the offseason, so they have that relationship.
Which is
so
great.
I think Kelvin Harmon wins the job, but I'm not going to sleep on Antonio Gandy Golden. I'm a big fan of his.
Yeah.
He's the kind of receiver that we've been trying to get over the past maybe 5 years. Get that big receiver. When I see Antonio Gandy Golden, I think Cortland Sutton, I think Kenny Galladay. Those are the comps that I have for him.
Which is huge. I'm a huge Kenny Galladay fan. So that
you know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
he's definitely going to be a guy. If you can grab him in Dynasty, you kind of grab him and stash.
Yeah.
You don't know how that whole wide receiver group is going to shake out.
Up in the air.
It's definitely going to be between AGG, as I call him, and Harmon, and then Sims in the slot. But what if they move Harmon to the slot and then AGG to the outside? Somebody brought that to my attention yesterday, and I never really thought of it that way.
Yeah.
That's possible. So it's all about who does Haskins like? How is the offense going to look under Scott Turner? There's so many different factors.
Yeah.
Scott Turner does love big receivers. He had Funches, and I don't know if he was there when they had Kelvin Benjamin, the wide receiver that turned into a tight end.
Yeah.
Because they ate a burger too much. Yeah, so, I'm very, very big on Antonio Gandy Golden. I would say draft him. He's probably going to go, like in a dynasty league, a normal dynasty league, he's probably going to go later, especially in the league that I'm in. The way that these guys draft is just it's crazy. I'll be able to get Antonio Gandy Golden for free.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's the best way to get him too, I guess. So.
Absolutely. But yeah, I'm big on him. He's definitely a draft and stash for me. And then I'll just kind of like wait it out to kind of see what this receiving group is going to look like. What does Haskins look like? It's just a lot of question marks
everywhere for the Redskins. Even the backfield, draws a lot of with the running backs. Who's going to run the ball, who's going to pass catch. There's a lot of marks there.
Yeah, I've been holding on to Bryce Love, but it might be time to let him go.
So have I.
I might have to just let him go and pick up Antonio Gibson.
Yep.
Because the way that it's looking, here's my projections. They have 6 running backs on the roster.
Yep. They're
going to keep 4. They're obviously going to keep the 3 guys that they invested a 4th round pick or higher on, which is Darius Geis, 2nd round, Antonio Gibson, 3rd round, and Bryce Love, 4th round.
Yep.
And of course, you got to keep the GOAT, Adrian Peterson. So those are the 4 that you run with. After Adrian Peterson is done, which is after this season, I don't see the Redskins bringing him back. Then you're going to have Geis, Gibson, Love.
Yep.
Those are the 3 that I think are the future of this team moving forward. Now, which of the 3 is going to be the guy, past next year? I don't know. But
yeah, it's up in the air.
It'd be nice to draft and stash.
Yeah. I don't know. I also was on the boat of hanging on to Bryce Love, and I saw a tweet recently, and I couldn't tell you the numbers, but his junior year he had like outstanding stats.
Oh yeah.
And but when you got Rivera comparing Gibson to, Christian McCaffrey, I think that's says enough about how he views him.
Exactly
with that. So it's up in the it's tough. It's tough to I hope Geis is healthy because I want to actually see him play. But the other guys,
I'm a big Geis fan.
Yeah,
I'm a big Geis fan. I'm actually trying to get him on the show. I'm a big Geis fan. But back to Antonio Gibson. If you look at his college tape, he took a lot of snaps at wide receiver. So I see him playing more of the Curtis Samuel role than the Christian McCaffrey role. What I mean by that is Curtis Samuels, he was used just all over the field. Okay, like jet sweeps and coming out the backfield, wildcat. They can use him all these different ways. So I see him being like a utility guy, a guy that's used in the receiving game. But he does have a chance to be a running back. I mean, he's 6 feet tall, 220 or maybe 220 pounds. So that's a big guy. It's just going to be very intriguing on how they use him. I'm definitely excited about the future, but I just want to see what that backfield looks like. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Nick, do you have any more nuggets for us? I mean, you've been dropping so much knowledge so far.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that last bit right there.
No, I said you've been dropping so much knowledge, man. Do you have any more nuggets for us?
No, I think that's it right now. I think you and I can probably go back and forth all night on this topic.
Absolutely,
of sleepers, because there's so many guys that I think can step up this season and do more than they are drafted to be. So,
right, most definitely. I'm gonna add one more sleeper, Deontay Johnson from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I like what he did last season. I love what he did last season, and with Big Ben coming back fully healthy, that's definitely going to be a guy that can give you rookie Juju Smith-Schuster's numbers from I think a couple years ago. So Deontay Johnson, Pittsburgh Steelers, keep an eye out on him.
I actually acquired him in I would say my quote unquote main dynasty league. Right before the draft. It was actually for some draft picks, so I'm right there with you, and I hope that with Big Ben slinging the ball again, that he can continue to thrive, even if Juju has another big season.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm big on all these guys, Juju, Big Ben, even Connor. As long as Big Ben is there driving the ship, everybody looks great. So I'm big on all Pittsburgh Steelers offensive weapons, including Ebron. I'm not a fan of Ebron. I don't like him, but I know Big Ben will know exactly how to use him, especially in the red zone. So,
oh yeah,
absolutely. So how can the people find you on social media?
So everything is pretty much driven through the Twitter page. So I am just at P2W Fantasy on Twitter. Got a YouTube channel going. Most of the content is through articles that we push out. Got a podcast that'll be pushing out pretty soon. But yeah,
awesome.
Mostly through Twitter. So again, at P2W Fantasy on Twitter there. But yeah, thank you very much for having me on.
Absolutely.
I listened to one of your pods and I touched base with you through your DM and said, hey, I don't know if I, agree to a T with some of the things, you said as far as, your rankings of, I think it was running backs, but I love the way that you explain things and your confidence in what you talked about. So I was pretty honored just to be able to sit and talk to you tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nick, for coming on. Definitely will bring you back on, most definitely. And good luck on your fantasy season this year.
All right. Same to you, man. Appreciate it.
All right, man. You take care.
All right.
So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in into another episode. I appreciate the love that you guys are giving me out there on all the social media platforms. Be sure to share this podcast with one other person. Please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or whatever platform that you do use. Subscribe, share, follow me on Twitter at TS with Manny, Instagram, TS with Manny, on Facebook, Talking Sports with Manny. Thank you guys so much. And if you guys have any comments, be sure to hashtag TSWM, Talking Sports with Manny 2020. Thank you guys so much. Love y'all. Y'all be safe out there. There's a lot going on. Just please be safe out there. Love you guys.